Y'all ready to get started? Yes. All right. Why don't y'all all stand and we'll say a pledge to the American flag. And I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, we'll pray. Father, we're just thankful to be able to assemble here freely. We're thankful for this county, and we're thankful for the great place we all live. Lord, we pray your blessings upon this meeting. We pray your blessing of safety for everyone coming and going. And Lord, we just pray that we'll all walk out of here good friends. We'll meet new friends. And Lord, we just thank you for your blessings to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, that was a reminder. Can we all silence our phones? I think I silenced mine, and I don't want to be the one that mine goes off. Okay, some of y'all know who I am, but I don't want to assume that you do, but I'm Diana Hoover, and I'm the Lipscomb County Republican Party Chair. And, yes, sir. Okay, and can you kind of, everybody, now that I'm talking again, can you kind of hear me? Is that better? Okay. And somebody want to tell the policeman over there to quit talking so we can start the meeting, or no? Okay. Anyway, I wanted to welcome y'all to the 2020 Republican Party Primary Candidate Forum for Lipscomb County. And we're going to start with our sheriff candidates. But Stephen Skipper is going to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about what he's doing here tonight.
Okay, I'm Stephen Skipper. We did this a couple of years ago for the judge race. We did a candidate forum there and had a commissioner's race that year too. And I videoed it and put it on Facebook, and that video got just about as many views as we had voter turnout. So it turns out people in a small town, they do want to be informed about their local elections, and it is a little bit more difficult in a small town to get information about your candidates. So what I've done is I've put together a Facebook page and a YouTube channel called the Lipscomb County Election Headquarters. And for events like this, I'm going to help Diana put these on. I've got video cameras set up, so after the fact, these will be available to view so people can be informed about the issues and the candidates that they're voting for in Lipscomb County. So that's what I'm doing here.
Thank you for doing that. They do offer that service that we should, maybe as party chairman, we should have a website, but if you do, then there's all these restrictions on what you have to do and how timely you have to do it. And I just, this is kind of one of those volunteer positions that takes up a lot of time, and I want to do it right. So if someone else is willing to do a website, and it's not actually just for the Republican Party, if we ever have a Democratic candidate, they will be able to post stuff on there too, and they'll be included in their party's forum or whatever they do. So at this point, though, we have all the elected officials for the whole county are Republican, which is really, in my opinion, a great thing. Okay. Tonight, I would like to introduce not just our candidates, but I'd like to introduce you to all of our elected officials, even those that are not on the ballot. And Kim Blau is the county clerk, but she is not here. Mickey Simpson, would you stand as I read your name? Mickey is our county judge. Our tax assessor collector is on the ballot, so he'll get to. Why don't you go ahead, Galen, and introduce yourself? I'm here. Okay. Come on up. You don't have to say much, just introduce yourself.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yes, you did. In my office, you signed up.
I was appointed first, though.
That's why I wanted you to tell them that.
Well, I have pretty much done the tax assessing and collecting for the last couple of years, and I was appointed last January for that role as tax assessor collector. And of course, in my office, I do the tag and title work and also the voting, and that was my main job before I got into this job. So, but I've been, the tax office has been working really hard trying to get the delinquencies down and bring in what money we can bring in. And so that's our goal, and we've done a lot of things that I think have changed part of that, and so we're going to keep on trucking and keep on doing the best we can to collect our taxes. When I got appointed to this position, I said I really don't know whether I want it, because I'm the guy that people are not going to like very well because I have to pay taxes to, but people like me pretty well so far. So that's who I am, and I guess I'll be here for another 4 years anyway. So thank you.
In case you don't know this, he's running unopposed, so that's why he says he's going to be here for another 4 years. And I didn't really let Mickey introduce himself. Mickey, you want to come up and tell a little bit about you being the judge? He stood up a little longer, and I thought, oh, maybe he has something to say.
No, I thought you were just introduce everybody. Didn't really want to say it.
I am Mickey Simpson, Lipscomb County Judge, and I just want to welcome everybody to the forum. I'm glad we have this many out, and I think we've got a great county. And I'm going to try and keep it that way, but you're stuck with me 3 more years. So.
Kimberly Long.
I have to remind Diana that she said in our little text that we didn't have to speak if we were not on the ballot. I am Kimberly Long. I am the county treasurer. Basically, I pay the bills and I make sure the HR and the payroll is taken care of. It's been an honor, really, to serve you guys the last 4 years, and just have really been a blessing. And I love this county, love this area. It's been a great area, and Greg and I have really enjoyed our time here.
I should have reread my text. I didn't remember I told him that. Matt Bartosowitz is our county attorney. He is not present. Our justice of the peace is Nancy Shepard. Nancy, you want to come say hi?
Sorry. That's okay.
Good practice.
To raise this up a little bit. Anyhow, I've been JP since 2015, and before that I was the court clerk, and I've really enjoyed serving the citizens of Lipscomb County. I appreciate your support.
Commissioner for Precinct 1, Juan Cantu, is on the ballot, but he is running unopposed and he is not here. Merle Miller, he's Precinct 2, right? And he is here. You want to say anything? I'm good. At least just stand up, let everybody see you.
I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah. Scotty Schilling is Precinct 3, and he's going to be on the stage here in a little bit, and I'll let him introduce himself then. And then Dan Cockrell is here, and he's not on the ballot yet. You want to say something, Dan?
My name's Dan Cockrell, and Precinct 4, and it's been a learning experience so far, and I'm still learning, but I really appreciate this county. And thank everybody for coming, and I don't want to take any more time other than from the candidates. So, thank you.
Okay. The debate or forum is going to be broken down into two parts. The first part is questions that we put together and provided to the candidates before the debate for them to review. The second part will be like town hall format, meaning that the questions will be taken from the audience here tonight. If you put one in the bowl back there, or if you have some that you're just now finishing up, or while we're discussing, you can lay them on the desk up here. You do need to write those down where I can read them. You need to put your name on them. Nothing anonymous, okay? And we'll be asking the questions, and your name will be read aloud with the questions. So the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and Stephen is the timekeeper. After you answer the question, your opponent can have a minute to respond if they choose to do so. They don't have to. And then each candidate will have 5 minutes at the end for their closing statement. Is that all pretty self-explanatory? Okay. I'm gonna, y'all have your questions that you already have.
Yes, ma'am.
And let's begin. Sheriff Eggleston, it's been 2 years since your election to the office of sheriff. What have you done in that time to make Lipscomb County a better and safer place to live? Is your mic?
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Like, I am Sheriff Ken Eggleston, and one of the things I thought we'd start off with is I and my deputies patrol the cities and county roads and the schools and the school zones to protect the children, which are the most important citizens of our county, to make sure that it's safe for them to cross the roads and the highways, to ward off violence at the schools, as well as look for drug activity, and God forbid a school shooter should show up to one of our schools. We work traffic to keep the streets and highways safe, checking for speed in excess, drunk drivers, as well as assist stranded motorists, make traffic stops and look for drug activity. We patrol the city streets to keep down on burglaries and thefts. We work all reported crimes in an effort to stop the criminals from working in our county. We try to respond in a timely and the best time we can to calls.
Okay. John, if elected, how do you intend to make Lipscomb County a better and safer place to live?
Good afternoon, I'm John Worthington, and candidate for Sheriff Lipscomb County. And the way I plan, if elected, to make the county safer for our children, adults, everyone in the county, is first of all, I plan to add myself and the chief deputy to the roster, which will add two additional patrol officers to the streets to cover. There's 6 right now to cover the whole county 24/7, and I think it's going to take all 6 of us. The second part of that is coordinate with all the other law enforcement agencies in the county, state, local, Booker PD, game warden, highway patrol. We can have meetings and coordinate with them and hit target areas where we're having a lot of trouble with crimes and pocket areas of offenses that have to do with drugs and burglaries and thefts. The other thing is the patrol officers, including myself, will be required to go into schools periodically and randomly to patrol those schools. We'll coordinate with the principals and the superintendents to make sure we have access, that we can go into the schools, and that it's okay with them. And just make random patrols of the schools and different school districts in all the communities here. The next thing, of course, we will be working the school zones, which will be part of the school walkthroughs. The next thing comes back to the schedules. We need to have a flexible schedule again, with the sheriff and the chief deputy included in the daily schedule, so that you can plan out with these other agencies when we're going to have the most people there, and then when we're going to be shorthanded because of schools and other training they have to go to, illness, things like that, where your deputies are out. Me and the chief deputy have to fill in and take that place.
That's your time.
Okay, I think he wanted, what are you saying?
The sheriff can respond if he wants to.
Do you want to respond to that?
Oh, I can, yeah, short response. Yeah. Yeah, John, and most of those things are happening right now. We do coordinate. The sheriff and the chief deputy take calls, and we are on the schedule. So we got that done. We're already walking in the schools and seeing people and warding those things off. We have a real close working relationship with our local game ranger, with the highway patrol troopers. And we try to assist Booker PD the best we can. So I think we've all covered those areas. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Do I get to respond to you?
Yes?
Okay, my response to that is, sure, that all is occurring periodically. But I can guarantee you that I will be there leading that office on a daily basis. People in this community will know who I am because I'll be out here in every community every day and talking to you. That way we can coordinate if there's a problem. We take that information and pass it on to these other agencies. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Somebody had some questions they forgot to put their name on and just realized that, so that's what we're doing up here. Okay. Sheriff Eggleston, what do you think is the number one crime-related issue in Lipscomb County, and how are you dealing with it?
I think you skipped a question, actually.
Oh, I
Experience.
did.
Yes.
Okay. Can you, Sheriff Eggleston, can you please describe your law enforcement experience?
Sure. Yes, this year I will be coming into my 30 years in law enforcement. I've worked in many aspects of law enforcement. I've been a dispatcher jailer, a police officer. I've been a DARE officer and teach the drug resistance program in the school. I've also been a drug task force agent. I've been a instructor. I had my lead instructor in Oklahoma to teach other police officers. I've been a police chief at Arnett. I've been in a supervisory position more than once. I've been the undersheriff in Ellis County, Oklahoma, the chief deputy, and now I am your sheriff. I believe I've made a well-rounded deal of my experience to serve you as sheriff if I am reelected.
John Worthington, can you describe your experience in law enforcement?
I attended Vernon Regional Junior College in Wichita Falls in 1990. I've been a licensed peace officer since then, so about 30 years. I have 23 years TCO experience as a peace officer, which is full-time or reserve, and the other 7 years was a military break in service. I went to work at Pampa Police Department in 1990. I worked there in a very busy town back in the 90s, covering every kind of call you can think of, and received a lot of experience there. I was a K-9 officer for 3 years, mainly a drug dog. I left there. I was city marshal at LaFours, and then after there, I also worked for Gray County Sheriff's Office for several years, and that's when I took my military break. In 2013, I come back, went to work for Hemphill County Sheriff's Office, worked there until I come up here. In 2015, went to work for James Robertson, worked for James for a year and a half, and then when Sheriff Eggleston was elected, he appointed me as his chief deputy, and as his chief deputy, I was the jail administrator. I was the dispatch supervisor, and also as chief deputy, I took care of patrol and all kinds of administrative duties within the office.
Okay, now I'm going to get to this question.
Okay.
Sheriff Eggleston, what do you think is the number one crime-related issue in Lipscomb County, and how are you dealing with it?
I believe that drug addiction and drug abuse is the number one crime in Lipscomb County. Methamphetamine is the most widely commonly used drugs. I and my deputies deal with this in the best way we can. But I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret, the good people of this county. The system as far as taking care of people that are using narcotics is broken. We arrest the people for possession of drugs, and the system's overloaded and the prosecutors don't want to deal with it. And when they do prosecute them, they give them plea bargains and let them right back out on the street. Then we rearrest them again, and they get convicted, and they'll probably get sentenced to 2 years in prison. And while in prison, their drug habits, they don't get taken care of. They're still on drugs. They still get them in prison. And then they turn them right back, and they turn them back on the streets, and they're still addictive, and they're still out here. They're committing our crimes. The biggest crimes we have in this county are committed by people that use methamphetamines. And to tell you the truth, there's no rehab for them. They don't have rehab for them. When they go to prison, they don't get rehabbed. They don't do anything to try to change the way they are on drugs. They just put them in there for a little time and kick them out the door. And so in my 3 years of being sheriff here, I've seen that was one of the problems that was going to be a revolving problem. That right now there's nothing dealing with the system other than sending them back and forth a window. So some sheriffs across the state of Texas have banded together, and we've gone to the state, to Austin, to try to get money, and also for the federals, gone to Washington to try to get and create an inpatient and drug and mental health facilities across the state of Texas to try to treat and rehab drug addiction and mental health. Those are the two worst things we deal with here in this county, and that's the only way I see that it can be dealt with. But right now, I went to the White House and we visited with President Trump, and he was really on board for us doing something like this and agrees with us.
Sheriff, that's your time.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Worthington, what do you think is the number one crime-related issue in Lipscomb County, and how do you plan on dealing with it if you're elected sheriff?
Okay, I agree with him. Drug use-related crimes are the number one focus, or number one thing that needs to be addressed in this county. People are going to do their narcotics, their marijuana, and their drugs in their homes. And it's unfortunate, but we can't kick in doors to go in there and get it. So my plan is to help focus on that is, of course, increase patrols. We're going to have to make some traffic stops, which may upset a few people. But we use probable cause, we make our traffic stops, and we try to catch those narcotics before they get to their houses. And because of all these narcotics coming in, they do cause actual crimes and penal code offenses that involve family violence, child abuse, DUIs, DWIs, and other crimes that just thefts and burglaries, and it just continues on. Because the people need to have that next drug fix, and they're going to go out and get the money somewhere, either stealing it from their grandmother, their parents, or go out here and steal it from other people and their neighbors. One thing I plan on doing to help combat this is increase patrols in each community within the cities, reestablish Crime Stoppers, try to get a board back together and get donations and everything, and reestablish Crime Stoppers in Lipscomb County. Also, use the computer systems that are now that were gotten through grants that are going to be in all the vehicles to document where the high crime areas are and to focus on which crimes are being committed, and then that's how you distribute your personnel. You can't just focus everything on traffic. You have to focus it on family violence. You have to focus it on thefts and burglaries. So it's just going to be increased presence in the community and relying on your community to help you out with this information. Thank you.
Sheriff Eggleston, what distinguishes you from your opponent and makes you the right choice for Lipscomb County?
I believe in my past 3 years of being Lipscomb County Sheriff that it all goes together with my qualifications and my experience. Furthermore, Lipscomb County is my home. I pay taxes here, my family lives here. I was born and raised in this county, and I truly believe I love this county more than my opponent, and that's my belief. I come back home to serve, and that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Mr. Worthington, what distinguishes you from your opponent and makes you the right choice for Lipscomb County?
Work ethic and community commitment. That's what distinguishes me distinguishes us apart. I have a very strong commitment to the community. Your sheriff and deputies will be involved in the schools and community events. We'll also be definitely familiar with all the businesses, the business owners, elected officials, and city officials. I think communicating with everyone within the community, businesses and everything, will help us. I'm getting messed up, but anyway, what it'll do is it will help us get information from within the community. Also, I'm not a clock watcher. I don't sit here and watch the clock when I'm out here working. We're going to have to work, especially as sheriff, until you get the job done. You've got to be out there and be available to supervise, make decisions when needed at all times. I have an extensive background through the military in leadership and management, also through the deployments to Iraq, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba while on active duty. I have experience as a leader and a supervisor. While working in the Active Guard Reserve Program, I attended many leadership classes and counseling classes. Also, while deployed, I was in charge of $10 million worth of U.S. government equipment, and we had 100% accountability of all that equipment upon return. I would take care of my employees. I would lead by example. And I'll definitely be involved in the daily operations of the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to questions from the audience. And I have a stack here, and I think I've got them separated for the different positions. But I'll start with...
Also, if you do think of another question or you haven't written down a question, you decide you want to do so, go ahead and do it, and you can bring it up to me, and I'll get those over to Diana. So it's not too late to get your questions in if you think
Are
of
there any
something,
there?
if you have something.
Are there any sitting back there? Are there any filled out back there right now?
No, ma'am, and they've got to sign.
Okay, right.
Yeah, that's right. You do need to put your name on the card. We're not going to have any anonymous questions asked today.
And I think I checked them all, but went right back. Okay, first guy that was here tonight, Otis Shear, has a question, and he wants to ask it from both candidates. So we'll start with Sheriff Eggleston. What are some major challenges in Lipscomb County crime detection and prosecution?
Okay. One of our hardest things is believe it or not, everything we do costs you as taxpayers. And the money, we do have money restraints. We don't have an unlimited checkbook to do anything we want to do. That's one of the biggest restraints. The other one is most of our county prosecutions are actually prosecuted. Unfortunately, when it gets into the hands of the district attorney, it kind of stops right there. That would be my answer to that question.
Okay. Mr. Worthington, your answer to what are some major challenges in Lipscomb County crime detection and prosecution?
One of the biggest challenges we have as far as the detected crime in the county is a lot of them occur, and we're such a rural area, a lot of the crimes occur out in the rural areas where there's 6 of us to patrol, so it's really hard to be everywhere at one time. And the criminals know that. So, again, we just have to increase our patrols and our random schedule to try to combat that. I guess that's all I have on that one.
Okay.
That's,
The wives have lots of questions. Okay, this is from Chris. All of a sudden, I can't read your writing, but I can't remember your last name. Chris. Okay, I'm sorry. How will you keep overtime down this is for John, while providing services to the county?
the way I'll keep overtime down, or at least keep the overtime comp time down, is I'll show up to work every day and I'll take up the slack when these guys have to be off or have to take off. Obviously, I can't be there all the time, but I think it has to do with daily management, watching the comp time on a daily basis to see where it is and see how it goes up. And if you have someone out there that's coming in too early or they're not following the schedule properly and overcharging the county, you need to bring them in and talk to them about it.
And remember, after one of you answers the other, you do have a chance to speak up at that. If you have a response, you'll have to speak up and interject yourself thereafter.
Okay.
You have a response?
Yeah, I do. Actually, at this point in time, you could probably check with the county commissioners. We have our overtime in check. We actually have gone and worked very hard to put it in check. And with myself and my chief deputy, Chris Lockridge, we have got it in check. And the roads are still being patrolled and the things are still being done to the best we can. I mean, there are always going to be, sometimes comp time kicks up, but we're keeping it under control.
Deandra Eggleston, for John, if you become sheriff, will you live in Lipscomb County full-time?
Right now, I live in Lipscomb County full-time. I live on County Road V. They're off of 305. We lease a house there for Bailey Payton. We've leased it, paid our lease every month, and lived there for the last 4 years and 3 months. Thank you.
Anything you want to say to that?
If that's what John says, and that must be what it is.
Okay, Deandra Eggleston, John, if you should become sheriff, do you intend to sell your home in Pampa and buy property and pay taxes in Lipscomb County?
If I become sheriff in Lipscomb County, at this time, I haven't determined what we're going to do with our home in Pampa. That really has nothing to do with Lipscomb County. There's definitely a possibility, and we're sure looking at purchasing a home or renting a different home. But that will never take away from my duties as sheriff or my commitment to this community. Thank you.
Brenda Hill. John Worthington, do you have a plan to be proactive and interactive with communities and schools and establish relationships with our youth?
Yes, I do. I plan on making sure that the deputies go to every school district, again, do walkthroughs, be involved in basketball games, football games, track meets. I plan on continuing doing the senior skip out every year. It may seem minor, but I think it's a really good program that we do every year. I would like to see the deputies be involved in the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts in the communities that have them. I believe definitely that you should be, of course, in the school zones and walking around talking to the kids, because you never know when, someone bad is going to be there. And I think your presence at the schools, even randomly, will definitely help. Thank you.
Yeah. That's already being done. The school zones are already being worked. We're in the schools. Unfortunately, you can't have a deputy at every game in the county every time, because most of the time you only have 2 or 3 on at a time, the most you have, because you can't afford the comp time. And so you might have one here and you might have one there, but you can't have them at all the events. I would love to do that. I'd love to see how we could get it all done, but it's not possible with the funding we have.
Okay. To the sheriff, Kenny Eggleston from James Robertson. Recently, your chief deputy on Facebook said that none of us would vote for your opponent if we knew what he did not do and how much money he had cost Lipscomb County. Would you explain what this is about?
To tell you the truth, I didn't read it on Facebook and have no idea about it. So it's not something that I want to can elaborate on.
Okay.
I know there's all kinds of stuff on Facebook all the time, but I'm not going to elaborate on what happens on Facebook.
John, you want to respond to that?
Yes, I don't remember the exact date, but I sent out just a poster only of my yard sign and sent it out to all Facebook friends and just ask them to share it with their friends if possible. And I got a lot of good responses and a lot of positive feedback. But there was one feedback that come back from Chris Lockridge, who basically took a shot across the bow at me, talking about how I apparently or somehow cost the county a lot of money, and if you knew what I did, you wouldn't vote for me. But that's all. There's no explanation, no reason for it. There's just, it's just a shot at me. And I have no doubt he's probably on duty over at somebody's house. And he just has something, a bone to grind or whatever with me. And, it's just unprofessional. That's kind of chief he has now.
Okay, from Deandra. Am I saying her name right?
Yes.
Okay. John and Kenny, so we'll start with Kenny. You both claim to care about people in Lipscomb County. Let's see, I guess she's going to ask it of John first. So let's do that first. John, what volunteer work in Lipscomb County did you do or do you do? Do you do fire department, EMT, city council, etc.? And then the same question of Kenny, and then there's a second part.
To the first part, as chief deputy, I was working all the time, and I wasn't able to do a lot of community service. But one thing I did do is I have been a member of the American Legion in Darazette, and through that organization, we do a lot of good things for the public and for the community.
Kenny?
Let me see. I've been an active member of the Higgins Fire Department. ever since I come back home, at least 10, 11 years, and then before that on other volunteer fire departments. Also a member of the Lipscomb County Stock Show Board, takes care of the stock shows. I'm a member of the Arnett Masonic Lodge. I've been a member there for like 15, 20 years, something like that. We do a lot of good things in the community for the kids and things. Shriner Hospital give money to that and stuff. So that's some of the volunteer stuff I've done in the past.
Okay. John, during the two major disasters in Lipscomb County in the last 3 years, fire and ice storm, what volunteer work did you do in Lipscomb County that you did not get paid for?
Again, during those two terrible days in March and February, I worked all the time, and I really have no excuse as far as, or explanation as far as what I could do on my own time, because obviously at that time during a crisis, you don't have any of your own time. Thank you.
Kenny, the same question?
Well, during those times, I was working too as well, and there wasn't a lot of volunteer time to put on during the exact times of the ice storm. The fire, we were really busy with the fire, and then after that, I did quite a bit of volunteer work. Actually took some vacation time and went and hauled some hay to use my own vehicle and used my trailer and hauled hay and feed and stuff to the people out here that were in need. I did that. And during the ice storm, which I would go, before I would come on duty, I would go around to several folks in town that don't have, can't fill their generators up with gas, and fill their generators up with gas. And most of those I bought the gas for. They didn't have the means to buy that. Can I have a rebuttal on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sheriff, who was in charge of the sheriff's office while you were out doing all this volunteer work?
Obviously, the chief deputy was in charge. That's the way it works.
Okay.
Okay, we're not.
Okay, great. Now,
Keep this up here.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions, unless someone brought some others up. I'm going to look through, if you'll give me just a second, make sure some of this other stack is not for the sheriffs. Okay, I think the rest of these are for them. Okay, so now, I think the way I announced it, we'll let y'all each have 5 minutes to just talk, say whatever you want to say about yourself, and then the other opponent will be able to do another 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap this up.
okay. Go first.
You go first.
Oh. Well, as most of you got to hear questions and answers, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you I'm perfect and without faults, because I'm not. I've tried to do the best job I can do for the people of this county. Sometimes, and there was a gentleman, and he's actually sitting in the audience, he told me, he said, sometimes it's a lot harder to wear that badge, and he was right. He gave me a good piece of advice when I was his chief deputy for a short time. He told me there was things that you wouldn't be able to do and things that you couldn't fix. And I've learned that. But I'm still committed to trying to make it the best place that I can. Obviously, I'm going to tell you that John was my chief deputy. I chose him that way. Sometimes races get hard and stuff like that, but ultimately, I do believe he's a good man. I will tell you that much. Sometimes other people that are closer to you see your faults and you see theirs, because none of us are perfect. I know there's a lot of things that when you start out you think you can do, and you find out that you can't do it. You're not going to be able to clean up all the drugs. There's not enough manpower here. There's not enough. It doesn't matter how well you facilitate it. You've only got so many deputies. I have sat there and begged and pleaded with the DPS narcotics to come here and work. And they always give me the deal, oh, we're coming to help you. Yeah, we're coming in. We're going to do all this. They never show up. But I'm continuing to do my job, and I will continue to do it and do it the best way I see. Now, everybody's got their opinions of how it ought to be done until they put the badge on, and then they get to make their choices. I thank you all for showing up here and doing your part to listen to us candidates and hear us go a little bit back and forth. And I appreciate it. And, bottom line is I think most people are sitting here because they do love this county and they care about it and they just want to see it better. And that's what I want. So thank you all for your time and showing up and listening to us. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
First thing I want to do is thank my wife, Sherry, for supporting me through this. I couldn't make it without her. I have a daughter and a son that are doing very well and support me 100% in this effort. I have a lot of friends here in Lipscomb County that are standing with me, praying for me every day, and to be strong through this and to be confident. I couldn't do it without you. I am committed to this county. Again, I have my flaws, and I'm going to make my share of mistakes. But I can guarantee you won't hear a bunch of excuses from me at all. If it doesn't work, we'll change it and try to make it work. We will take the community's input. We rely on you guys to tell us what we're doing wrong, for one thing, and then I have to be able to listen to you and try to make changes if they're possible. We have to listen to our deputies. There's a lot of experience out there with the deputies that are already on board. You have to get them involved in your office. You have to get the morale up. That's how you're going to get out here and solve a lot of these crimes, is work your sheriff's office as a team. You can't exclude dispatch and jailers at all because they're part of that team. They work every day. They're the unsung heroes that you guys hardly ever see. They're there manning those radios, watching over those criminals in the jail. These deputies all have families. It doesn't really matter where they live or who they're married to or what they own or anything else, as long as they give 100% effort to the county when they're working here, when they're being paid your hard-earned money and tax dollars. They need to be putting 100% of their effort in earning their paycheck every day. Thank you.
It's written on there. Okay. All right, I think that's all the questions we have for the sheriffs and sheriff candidates. We'll take 5